Don't they fall into the sea?
Woo! You did it again, Money T.
Thanks, Uncle P.
Everybody take a half-hour break. We'll be back in an hour to wrap it up.
I came from outside of the studio booth to a text from my mama. She was going to Memphis this weekend. Now, usually, I'd stay behind and work at the studio and stay at Uncle P's house. But after writing what he just considered another hit and covering this Jimi Hendrix song he loves so much, I figured now was a good time to ask him, could I go to Memphis with my mama?
After what you just did, take a whole week, Money T.
Really?
I'll see you when you get back.
Thank you, Uncle P. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Enough of that gooey stuff. Just get your butt back here by next weekend. We got another show coming up at the basement, and we need to rehearse.
Okay, Uncle P. I will. Yes, I'm gonna Memphis.
I was so happy. I've been in Nashville for months, surrounded by nothing but music and the studio, that it felt good to go back home and spend time with my own family and friends back in Memphis. I was missing them terribly. When me and Mama went to Memphis that weekend, I got a chance to spend some time with JJ, Cookie, Tombone, Jesse, and Nisha. We got drunk and drove to the park and was singing Dream Girls for about an hour. We was acting out all the parts, stumbling over each other, swinging on swings, and laughing till we cried.
There you are, Effie. I've been looking all over. I turn my back and find myself out on the line. You could have warned me, but that would have been too kind.
For a minute, it felt just like it used to back when we were little growing up, and I couldn't get enough of it. JJ told me our brother T was having a party at his house soon and that everybody would be there. Even LaShawn was gonna be there, she said while she waited on my reaction. I told her, I don't care nothing about no LaShawn, JJ, I'm over him. She was like, sure you don't. I was lying again, and she knew it. I don't know, it was strange. I didn't feel that I was in love with him anymore, like in love, but still, I smiled every time I heard his name. Maybe it was just a first love thing, you know, where you just have a soft spot in your heart for them that never really goes away. I tried to hide my cheeks from blushing when she said his name, but JJ knew me too much, and she knew I was lying. I couldn't stand this girl, sometimes always busting me out and speaking exactly what she knew I was thinking. Speaking of, let me tell you how the both of us even became best friends in the first place. I was living in the big house. Y'all remember the one I was telling y'all about with my own room and silk covers? Well, I was living over there, going to a new county school, and we were getting ready to move back to the Raleigh area, and I was transferring back to my old school where I come from. JJ said everybody talked about me and how I could sing and how pretty I was, and they talked about me coming back for weeks until the weeks turned into months, that it got on her nerves every day hearing about some 𝐓𝐿𝐴 girl. When I got there, I remember us being in the same class. And I remember saying hey to her, and she was standing with her arms folded and her back up to the wall. She had these beautiful tight black curls, and her hair was so beautiful. She was wearing a black tank top and a white school shirt that was just opened up with the buttons open over that undershirt. She looked at me and rolled her eyes, and I didn't know why, so I just started back talking to my old friends. She would stare at me every day like this, and she looked so mean but sad at the same time. After about 2 weeks of this, I got sick of it, so I went up to her and I said, hey, again. And in the middle of me saying hey, she just blurted out to me, I want to fight you. My head cocked back and I was shocked. I looked at her like, what are you talking about? Now, everybody in the school knew I was whooping butts and asking questions later, so I'm guessing on top of her being mad, because she later on told me she was scared I was going to take all her friends from her. She wanted to see if I could fight like everybody say I could, but I didn't feel like fighting. Me and fighting, we don't quite work like that. For me to ever fight anybody, I had to be angry with them first. and I didn't even know her enough to be angry with her. So I looked at her and I said, why can't we just be friends? I'm not sure what kind of smooth talking lips I had, but whatever I said to her made her rethink her proposition. And after I got done speaking to her, she looked at me like, oh, well, I never thought of that. The next thing I knew, she'd invited me over to her house after school one day at the beginning of the next summer, and her mama cooked some barbecue and beans and spaghetti, and I was chowing down. I didn't skip a beat. I was so hungry that day after school. I remember it like it was yesterday. When I looked up and seen both of their faces staring at me like I was some kind of wild animal. Miss D said, who is that girl eating my food like she know me? And we all laughed about it. And JJ and her mama and her whole family loved me ever since. I think 'cause I was a pretty girl, ain't nobody expect me to throw down like that. But I promise you, I will turn into Tiffany off of White Chicks if I'm hungry, and it ain't gonna be no salads over here, okay? Once JJ saw I was myself and I was just comfortable around her from the bat, she just opened up to me. Over the years, we cried together, laughed together, cussed together, drank together, got in trouble together, lied together, went to parties together. We were so close that our monthly started syncing up, and we even had them together. She didn't have to be my blood to be my blood. She just felt like it. And to this day, I ain't ever really had a friendship like that again. I think sometimes some friendships are only once in a lifetime. And you know, I'm okay with that. I cherish the moments that we had back then, and whenever I think about her or her family, I pray for them because they my family too, and I still love her. And every time I watch Princess and the Frog, I don't watch it much, but when I do, I laugh thinking about us watching that movie in her bedroom. We must have watched that movie on repeat 100 times together, and we laughed at the same part every time like we'd never seen it before. Anywho, this weekend when we was all hanging out, JJ said T would be throwing a party and everybody would be there, and I made sure to be in town that weekend. And I was. We went and bought some cute dresses. I got me a purple one, put my black boots on to match, a black leather jacket and purple eyeshadow, and I was cute, honey. You couldn't tell me nothing. We went over there and the house was packed. Me and JJ and Cookie got so drunk that night that I almost got to fighting with one of the girls for bumping into me. But she was scared and she didn't want to do none. People who talk a whole lot but ain't really about that talk that they talking. And JJ was like, 𝐤𝐡𝐞, don't even worry about it. Out of all of us, I can admit that I was the worst when I got drunk. I would drink so much till I was stumbling over and I couldn't even walk. Honestly, I can't even tell you if LaShawn was there or not, because unfortunately, by the end of the night, I had already blacked out. I had drank so much that night that two of our high school friends had to carry me to the car and lay me on the back seat. When I woke up, I was throwing up everywhere and crying and saying how I felt nobody loved me and how I truly felt all alone. JJ couldn't handle me, and no one else could either. So they called my mama and told her to come get me because I was acting downright crazy. And I was, and my mama did come get me. I can't even tell you what my mama said to me in that car that night, pulling up at my grandmama's house. She was giving me a pep talk, but I was so out of it, I didn't hear nothing. And they were right, I was acting crazy. I was going through a lot. It was a lot on me, and I couldn't even sit in what I was feeling long enough before Uncle P wanted a song out of it. Now, he wasn't a bad man, so I don't dare want any of y'all thinking that. He was a wonderful man, but he was a businessman. So like he said before, wasn't no sense of feeling that way to 𝐤𝐡𝐞 if you couldn't turn it into a song. So here I was, feeling pain and anger and sadness and turning it into songs before I could even process it myself. It's nothing wrong with that, but if you do that too much, it's just unhealthy because you don't really ever give yourself time to think things through. And at 18 years old, I wasn't thinking nothing through. I was crying and diving into a sea of darkness, and I was trying to cover it up with alcohol, weed, and even sometimes pills. All these shows every weekend, all these hand claps clapping for me, and just like my song, I was fading away into the blackness, and that became my norm. And for the next few months, I would hurry up and do whatever it was Uncle P wanted me to do in Nashville so I could get back to my hometown in Memphis and hang out with my girls and Tone Bone if he could come along. We would drink, go to clubs, gay clubs and regular clubs. Ain't no shame in my game. We would dance, and then by the end of every night, I was crying, throwing up, and being a buzzkill. Back then, I didn't know I had a call on my life. And I for sure didn't know nothing about being no prophetess or no seer. But you know what the Bible say, don't you? It says that the gifts of God are without repentance. And that means that whatever gift God gave you to use for His glory and for His kingdom, it operates, whether you're obedient to God or not. It operates, whether you're following God or not. It operates because God put it in you. I believe that's why sometimes we see drunk preachers on the corners trying to talk about God and folks who look like they ain't got no common sense making all the sense in the world sometimes when it comes to talking about God. They was probably meant to be an evangelist or a preacher or something, but because they didn't follow God and become who He wanted them to become, they're there on the corner drunk, preaching to whoever will listen, and they can't help it because God put it in them. Anyway, because the gift God gave me was still operating, every time I got drunk, I could see angels and demons flying around us. I remember this one time we were in the car leaving the club, and me and JJ was in the back seat together. I must have seen a demon trying to get a hold of the car we was in, and an angel with some huge wings and a huge sword sliced that demon in half, it looked like. And then I saw that same angel flying above the car in the air fighting with another demon. And then my eyes closed and I couldn't see him no more. I told JJ and everybody in the car what was going on in the spirit realm, and JJ put her hands on her head and said, "Shut up, 𝐓𝐡𝐞, shut up. I don't want to hear nothing about no angels and demons and spirits. Just shut up." They was just trying to have a good time, and here I was messing it up. I hated being a buzzkill, but I just couldn't help what I saw. One night, me and Cookie were together, and I can't remember where JJ was. All I know is that most of the time when she wasn't with us or at work, she was with this guy named 𝐓𝐡𝐞 who she'd been dating and in love with since middle school. So me and Cookie started being left alone a lot without her sometimes. But because Cookie was JJ's cousin, we still went to JJ's house to sleep over whether she was there or not, because by this time me and Jay were practically family, so there wasn't an odd thing for me to spend the night when she wasn't there. She was my blood now, and we'd been friends since we were 11, and now we were 19 years old. This night, I got a text from T saying I should come over. This wasn't abnormal for me because out of all of the friends I had, T was the one I had known the longest. We spent the night together times before with friends. We laughed together, cried together, went out to eat together downtown with other friends. He was my brother, and I've been knowing him since I was about 5 years old. He wasn't having a party tonight, but he just wanted some company. Once he said he had alcohol, there was no way I was turning down a good time with him and Cookie and for us to get drunk together. Me and Cookie threw on our night pants and PJs and big t-shirts and flip-flops and headed his way. And since T lived on the next street over, it wasn't even 3 minutes away. We must have walked in and T had a table full of alcohol and my face lit up like a Christmas tree. We talked for a while, sitting at his kitchen table, and while we was talking, the drinks was being thrown back. 1 drink, 2 drinks, 3 drinks, 4 drinks. Me and Cookie were getting so wasted, and T kept daring us to take 1 more. Everybody knew I was up for alcoholic dares, cause ain't nobody gonna outdrink 𝐓𝐡𝐞. Me and Cookie got up and was about to head back to Jay's house cause we could feel it starting to hit us hard. But when we said it, T said we could spend the night if we wanted to. His mama wasn't coming home that night, so we could go and sleep in the guest room. Somewhere after drink number 5 or 6, I wasn't stable no more. So I did what anybody would do when you start to feel yourself slipping from reality. I got up and stumbled into that guest room, crawled up on the bed, and I was out like a light. When I woke up, I'm not sure what time it was, but it had to be late because it was so dark. When I woke up, I could feel something in between my legs rubbing up against me. My vision was still blurry because of all the alcohol. But when I woke up just a little bit more, I could see who it was. And it was T, my friend who I had known almost my whole life, my friend who I shared my Lunchable with in the first grade on a field trip, my friend who I grew up with, my friend who I loved, my friend who I had comforted when he cried, my friend who gave me advice when I needed it, my friend who I gave advice to when he was dating all them girls that wanted him, my friend who I hugged, my friend who I loved, my friend who I got in trouble with, my friend who I lied for to keep him from getting in trouble with his mama one day, my friend who I watched grow from a little boy at the age of 6 into a grown man now at the age of 20, my friend who I called brother. He was on top of me, and he was already rubbing himself against me. We didn't plan this. I never flirted with him. I never teased him. I never led him on, so where all of this came from all of a sudden, I had no clue. And in the mindset of a girl who had been molested most of her life, you just give in because you want it to be over. And that's what I did. When he was done, I got up and followed him into the bathroom, and I asked him what happened because I still wasn't too sure. And when I asked him what was this stuff that was on me, and he looked at me and he told me, "That's all you." And he smiled after saying it. And once he told me, I remember stumbling back into the guest room and blacking out again. The next morning, when I woke up, I felt strange, but still I couldn't remember. It wasn't until I opened his bedroom door and saw him sleeping in his bed that I realized what had happened to me that night. I didn't even put my shoes on. I didn't even wake Cookie up. I just grabbed my shoes and ran out of that house barefoot. And I kept running and running until I made it back to JJ's house. I got in the shower and I tried to scrub my friend who I called brother all for me. But I couldn't. He wouldn't come off of me. And when he wouldn't, I slid my body down the wall of that shower and I cried for about 30 minutes straight. To JJ screamed to Kaya, "You gonna let out all the hot water?" And I ain't told nobody about none of it till now. The only one who knew was my mama. And even with her, I waited a whole year before them words even came out of my mouth. I was quiet for so many years because I didn't know what to think. And I love my brother too much to ever call him a rapist. So what do I do? What do I do? Who do I tell? When people will say, "Well, Takaya, you shouldn't have went over there and got drunk." But I think to myself, but we done it so many times before. Who do I tell when people will say, "Men will be men and you brought that on yourself"? So with all them thoughts, I stayed quiet. And I didn't say nothing about it until now. And for years I wanted to know why. Why me? Did you do that to me because you knew I was so forgiving? Did you do that to me because you secretly liked me and I didn't know? Did you do that to me because LeSean talked to you about me maybe a little bit too much and you wanted to know how I was for yourself? Not only that, but I was LeSean's first love and he was mine. And you were friends with him. Where was your loyalty to him? Ain't some stuff and some people supposed to be off limits? But before you were ever friends with him, you were a brother to me. So if you couldn't find it in your heart to muster up enough loyalty for him, why couldn't you muster it up for me? Why couldn't you have been loyal to me? Dang, that moment broke me. I came to Memphis to get away from pain, to escape my problems and the weight that was on me in Nashville. But I just ran into more problems. And the question that circled around my head for years like a crazy buzzing bumblebee was why? What on earth would make a friend who I've been knowing for 14 years climb on top of me while I'm blacked out and pull my pants down and rub himself against me until I woke up, and then take advantage of the fact I was drunk and I wasn't in my right mind? You were someone I loved all my life. And if another woman would have told me that you'd done the same thing to them before that night, I would have cussed her out, and I would have been ready to fight for you and defend your honor, and I would have told that woman, how dare you say something about my brother like that? He ain't gotta do that to you. Do you see how handsome he is? He can get anybody, girl, whatever. And I would have made sure everybody knew she was lying, because in my mind there would be no way my brother would ever do something like that to anybody. Do you know what it feels like? Do you know what it feels like to try to take a shower and scrub somebody who felt like a sibling to you off of you? It's one of the worst feelings in the world. And it's a feeling I wouldn't wish on anybody. And you never even said, Takaya, I'm sorry. What makes me so sad whenever I think about that night, and it's a night I try not to think about often, but sometimes out of the blue, I'll just have an outburst and I'll cry about it. But what makes me so sad is that when I go back over the memory of that night, I realize that you planned it all. It wasn't a mistake. From inviting us over, to getting me drunk, to telling me I could spend the night. And when I kept thinking about this, I realized that you didn't drink much that night with us like you usually did, and I didn't know why. But now I know. Now I know. You didn't want to drink heavy because you knew in your heart what you had already set out to do to me, and you made sure you were sober enough to do it. And that is what disgusts me the most. You know I trusted you. You knew I would never suspect anything from you but protection and love like a brother supposed to do a sister. And after 14 years of friendship, you took advantage of that. And you don't know what that did to me. And if you ever listen to this, I'm telling you, so you can hear with your own ears, that night made me snap from all the hurt, all the pain I'd already endured in my life mixed with trauma. That night was piled on top of it all, and I snapped. And I wouldn't look to 𝐲𝐞 no more. That night I became a grown woman, and my eyes was open, and I saw the world for what it really was. An evil place filled with people who do evil deeds. I went back to Nashville. I put on a tight, sexy cheetah lingerie dress, and I invited Corey over. I made sure that I was already tipsy before he got there. Once we started kissing, and I could feel he was into it, and he was. I went to tugging at his pants, and he asked me what was I doing. Once I told him, he stopped me and he said no. He told me I had to wait. And because he was saved, we had to wait until after marriage. He then said, "Now, 𝐸𝐞, once we get married, I can do that to you all night. But until then, no, 𝐸𝐞, no." And he made me go into the bathroom and change out of that lingerie and wash my makeup off of my face. And I felt stupid. He then got into bed with me and wrapped his arms around me and kissed me on my forehead just like he always did. And he fell asleep. He didn't know that I needed to get you off of me. He didn't know what I just endured, 'cause I'm just talking about it now. And he didn't know this either. But right there in his arms, for most of that night I cried. And I thought to myself, how does a white man who I ain't been knowing but 4 months got more respect and honor for me than a man I've been knowing for 14 years? How does that happen? And you knew you defiled me because you stayed away from me and you didn't talk to me for years after that night, just like I stayed away from you. And when you messaged me out of the blue asking me, why don't you come around no more, 𝐸𝐞? As if we were still the close friends we had been, and like what happened between us never happened. I wanted to throw up. In my heart, I believe you reached out to me because you wanted to know if I had forgiven you for what you done. But instead of asking for forgiveness, you were a coward and you asked me why I don't come around no more. But if you want to know if I forgave you, I did. That's how I could respond to you instead of cussing you out. And when you come across my mind, I try to think of the good years before that night, and I let my mind see you as that little boy who I loved and who I knew would be my brother for the rest of my life, instead of the man who lured me in with alcohol just to hurt me. You even called me queen when you shared one of my singing videos a few years ago after the fact. Yet, in that night I wasn't a queen, because you took off my crown and reduced me to that of a prostitute. when you crawled on top of me while I was sleeping, and Cookie was laying in the same bed, only a few inches away from me, blacked out too. And even with knowing all of that, you did it anyway. And I hated you for it. And I cried for years because of it. But I can't hold on to unforgiveness now, because I'm getting too close with God, and God, He won't let me. And even still, without knowing the why behind your actions, I forgive you. And now I see that you got a little girl yourself. And I pray for her. I pray that the Lord will keep her, and that He will protect her, and that she'll never have a friend like the kind of friend her father was to me in that moment. May she never have to endure the confusion and torment I had because she was defiled by a man who she thought was her brother. May she never have a friend who plots within his heart what he's gonna do to her, and she's unaware of it. And may she never have a friend whose lust for her outweighs his love. People think you gotta scream, and a man gotta beat you up or pull your hair out for it to be considered rape. But now I know firsthand that ain't always the case. If you have to get her drunk, because you know if she was in her right mind, she wouldn't give you the time of day, then it's rape. If the only way you know you can get this woman you want to sleep with you is by drugging her up or giving her something that she's unaware of, then it's rape. If you have to climb on top of her while she's blacked out and she don't know whether you coming or going and she's unaware of your presence, then it's rape. For many years, when I heard stories about other women going to their friends' houses and men doing something to them they really didn't want them to do, and they would sit on TV crying and telling their stories, I would roll my eyes and get annoyed because I too was like the rest of the world. And I would see these stories with these sad-looking women, and I would say to myself, well, now how did that happen? Why did they go over there? Or didn't she know that man was gonna do that to her? That was so stupid of her anyway. I too thought just like the rest of the world. But now I see they never thought they were in danger because it wasn't a stranger's house they was visiting. It wasn't some random man who they had a reason to fear. No, it was men they loved, men they trusted, and men they grew up with. That's how that happened to them. It wasn't strangers that defiled them and took advantage of them. It was their uncles, their cousins, and their friends, who they called brother.
First black man I knew left me and my mama, my brother and
thank you for listening to the Godly Chick Podcast. Tune in next Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear the continuation of Takaia's journey as well as her testimony. Don't forget to follow Godly Chick Ministries on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Godly Chick. That's GODLYCHIK. And always remember, when you know who's you walking with, it ain't hard to be a godly chick. Have a blessed day, and I look forward to having you all here with me again next week.
Tried to repent for my innocence.